Hello and welcome to this webinar on co-developing image data sharing tools organized by EPOS Multi-Skill Laboratories and EXCITE Network. So my name is Helene Vanderpoel. I'm a scientist at heart and communications advisor for the EXCITE Network and your host for today. So a little bit about the EPOS NL. EPOS stands for European Plate Observing System, and it connects data, laboratories, instruments, and services across Europe. So scientists. Hello, welcome. And it connects data, laboratories, instruments, and services across Europe. So scientists can access them all through one coordinated platform. And within this organization, there's EPOS Multi-Skills Laboratories, and that's the main Europe-wide infrastructure that brings together earth science laboratory data, from mechanical testing to geometry to imaging. So that's why EXCITE Network is thrilled to join forces with EPOS MSL to make sure that microscopy and tomography datasets can also go into a unified, FAIR-ready catalog. And you will hear a lot about what FAIR means and what it means for you. And there they can become visible, citable, and reusable, the easy way. So that's the goal here today. So we are very happy to have you as our guest today from EPOS Multi-Skill Laboratories, Ronald Pijnenburg. He is co-chair of EPOS MSL, and Mike Nussbaum, I hope I pronounce your name correctly, software engineer and mastermind of the vast data catalog that EPOS MSL already offers. So the EXCITE network is a network of 22 institutes, and we offer 40 imaging and data processing facilities throughout 14 European and partner countries. So there's a huge amount of data that is generated within the network, and would it not be great if we can harness the strength of all that data together? And that is exactly what we want to achieve here today. So also, I will continue to introduce a few more people. So Richard Wessels operates in between EPOS and EXCITE as EPOS data scientist and EXCITE access manager, being the bridge between microscopy data and the data catalog. And within EPOS, Richard works closely with Peter Mone, who is a professor at Pau University in France and director of the Center of X-ray Imaging. Last but certainly not least, we have Geertje ter Maart, project manager of the EXCITE network, and she's joining us here for the Q&A panel. So we are all very happy that you could join us today. We cannot develop these image data sharing tools alone because we need your experiences and expertise from the field to truly understand what works for you in practice. So we like to see this as an effort, as something for and co-created by geoimaging scientists. And we invite you to help shape how data publication should work for the EXCITE imaging community. So before I give the floor to Richard Wessels for a short introduction, here is what you can expect from us today. So, as I said, Richard will start with a short introduction, which is followed by a Q&A, an interactive session where we try and figure out together what data tools would help you. This webinar is recorded, as you can see, so people can watch back the introduction by Richard. So we will only share the introduction, not the interactive session or Q&A that follows. So please feel free to actively participate in the discussion. If you have a question, please raise your hand and I will give you the floor. You control the video and the microphone yourself. If you prefer, you can also put your question in the Q&A box or the chat of this webinar, and I can also pose the question for you. If any questions are left unanswered, we will collect these and answer them via email afterwards. So hopefully we don't leave anything unanswered in that sense. So finally, we are dying to know what previous experience you have with sharing data. And that is why we have devised a poll, and we hope you can give us an idea of the audience we have here today. So as you can see, I've got a slide now up with a QR code, or you can go to slido.com and use the number. Please answer the question that we pose in this poll. And the question is, have you ever shared data in a public repository? So have you ever done this before, the thing that we are discussing today? So I see that we have 16 attendees. Very nice, very welcome. Nice of you to join us. So I hopefully Great. So I see now in the top right corner, I see that answers are coming in. And the reason that I'm not showing the answers yet is that we don't want you to influence each other. So we really want to that you answer the question for yourself. So I see we have 10 people who answered the question. So I can show you the results. That's great. So we actually have a very experienced audience here today, and I think that is really nice. So 2/3 of you have already done it. 1/4, I see now 12 answered the question. Great. Almost all of you answered the question. And actually 17% is planning to. So I think, yeah, we've got a great mixed audience here, and I think that will be very valuable. So we have a few more extra poll questions, but we will get to that a little bit later on. And now I would like to give the floor to Richard for the introduction.
Great, yeah, I had to unmute myself. Thanks for the introduction, Selene. This was actually a very nice summary of what I'm about to tell. So
Sorry.
I don't even have to give the presentation anymore. So yes, welcome everyone. Nice that you all showed up to this maybe slightly atypical webinar of the EXCITE webinar series. Like Selene already said, most of you will probably know me from my role as a facility access coordinator in EXCITE, but I'm actually also affiliated with this EPOS club. And that's what we'll be talking to you about today. It's actually the collaboration that we as EXCITE are having with EPOS, and how that benefits you and how you can help us in making most value of this collaboration. So I hope that most of you are already somewhat familiar of what it is that we do in EXCITE, but EPOS may be a new name for you. So I'll start by going into what EPOS is, the relation that EPOS has with EXCITE and vice versa, the things on which we collaborate, and why this matters to you. That's the first part, that's the introductory setting. And thereafter, what we want to do with you is actually present you a scenario which is shaped in a survey. So we will ask you to fill this out. I will present it, and then we ask you to fill out the survey. And afterwards, we can discuss the questions and any other things that come out of this presentation. So let me start with the beginning. What EPOS is. So EPOS is an infrastructure whose goal it is to facilitate the access, use, and reuse of solid Earth science data in Europe. EPOS is called European Plate Observing System. It was funded, or it started roughly in 2018 in its current shape and form, and it's actually funded by 28 member states. So it's not so much a project, it's actually a long-term funded research infrastructure. And what it does is it brings together all this data, and its goal is to make all of that available in a single data portal, where you can then go assess the data, combine it, reevaluate it, export it in the way that is most useful for you. And this is sort of the core of what EPOS is focusing on. Now, as I already said, it's on solid Earth science data in Europe, and that encompasses a lot of disciplines. So in order to make this all a bit manageable, we've grouped ourselves into so-called thematic communities. And you can see that on the right-hand side with those logos. You have, for instance, seismologists are grouped together, volcanologists. And we are organized in what is called the multi-skill laboratories. So it's the green one over there. It's a self-organized community, and we represent laboratory facilities in Europe that are dealing with earth scientific problems and data. As EPOS Multi-Scale Laboratories, or MSL in short, we have three main aims. We want to make data available to researchers worldwide. We want to establish and expand the community of laboratories and of scientists working in those laboratories in Europe. And we want to facilitate access to those laboratories. So those are basically the three main points of EPOS MSL. We also have our own community data portal, which is dedicated to the laboratory data that is produced within our domain. And the link to that is located below it. But even the community of earth science laboratories is huge. So in order to organize ourselves, we are also again grouped into so-called domains, which are listed on the right-hand side. So we have analog modeling, we have paleomagnetism, rock and melt physics, geochemistry. We have something called field scale labs. So that's really large natural laboratories. And last but not least, we have analytical and microscopy. And that's actually where the link to EXCITE lies. So EXCITE, we started actually conceptualizing this in 2019. It really stems from a community that was already present in EPOS. We basically saw a funding opportunity to provide access to all these these microscope facilities that we have. Then at some point we followed that up with a second phase of the project starting in 2024. And that's actually what this current iteration of EXCITE is. What is it then that we do? We basically focus on the multi-scale, multi-dimensional characterization of earth and environmental materials using a whole range of imaging techniques. So electron microscopes, X-ray microscopes, we have atom probes, SIMS, etc. Anything geared towards imaging samples. Nowadays, we're not only focusing on acquiring the data, we also offer the opportunity to process your data. So in EXCITE, we have shifted a little bit, or we are sort of including the data aspect as well. And that is actually where this natural connection with EPOS lies. Because in EXCITE, we provide access to our facilities. By doing so, we generate a lot of research data. And that data, apart from being useful for you to answer your research question, is also of value or of potential value to others. So we in EXCITE aim to make this data available to other researchers in the best possible manner. And the best way to do that is through linking up with the EPOS infrastructure. So that's our link. We in EXCITE focus mainly on the facilities. We generate the data. EPOS is mainly concerned with the data, and that's exactly what we provide. So this is basically what our collaboration is focusing on. It's making sure that the data that is produced is being made available in the best and most impactful manner to other researchers. Why is this of interest? I want to take a step back here and look at how we conduct science in general. And especially looking from an earth scientific perspective, we normally start by going into nature, going into the field, making observations, taking measurements, etc. We then go through this scientific method realm and we think of some questions, we formulate hypotheses, we develop predictions, and we gather the data needed to test those. Then, if we're lucky, we can shape those into some general theories and we publish that in journals. And what happens nowadays is that the data that is underlying these theories and specifically these data or the journal publications, they essentially get published as separate data sets. So these are always data sets that are underlying data publications. Now that in itself is already useful because it provides a checkable set of data, so others can check what you did in terms of research. It helps reproducibility as well. But that's not the whole story, because there's more that you can do with data. And that's actually what EPOS is sort of focusing on. So instead of going into nature to make the observations, we actually take the data that is already available, we start reusing it, recombining it, reassessing it, and on that data set we can make observations. Now we can again go through this whole scientific cycle, and then publish the resulting recombined data. Then from that we can make specific inferences, and we can publish our science as a journal publication. In this case, the data is much more the focal point, and these are larger sets from which separate different publications can follow. So they're essentially supersets of information that's needed for the journal publications. It also provides a different entry point into into the research or into the scientific paradigm, and it provides a different way of finding and of discovering other researchers. So commonly you find what others are working on through their journal publications, but another entry here is to do that actually through the data directly. That's all nice and fine, but for that to work, you need to have trustworthy data that you can easily combine with other data sets, and also that you have to be able to get your hands on and work with. And that's actually where this so-called FAIR data acronym comes in. Sure, since most of you have already published data, you will be somewhat aware of what this FAIR is. It's essentially an idea or something that you try to aspire to, is to make the data as findable, as accessible, as interoperable, and as reusable as possible. I've also posted a link to a so-called FAIR data checklist there. We can share that afterwards as well, but that's sort of very simple flow to see if your data is, or how fair your data is. Why publishing fair data is important? Besides what I already mentioned, it also increases the transparency of the research that you conduct, and it can increase the impact. So that's essentially the carrot that we always hang in front of everyone. It can increase your citations, and it generally helps others to re-evaluate and redo and recheck your work. There's also a compliance aspect to it, and that is that it's simply mandated nowadays by basically all funders to actually publish your data. Why then does this matter to you? So this collaboration that we have with EPOS on the side of the data, it's essentially because what we try to do here is to make sure that the data that you generate has the most impact. So we are trying to co-develop tools and workflows that make it easier to find the data, to combine the data, and to reuse it. So classically, how you would publish your data is you would go to the lab, collect the data, decide what your data set would look like. You describe the data set with metadata and keywords. You choose a repository in which you publish the data, and then eventually your data is published, and you want to be able to find it. And that, the findability or the discoverability on the right-hand side, that is what we are working on with EPOS. So within this EPOS multi-scale laboratories, we have this community portal through which you can find these data sets. And in this case, we are specifically working on improving the means for you to assess, evaluate, and download those data sets. So how do we do that? What we try to do is, from a very early perspective or very early part, bring in the community for which we are building these tools. So we try to engage with the community, that's all of you, in the tooling that we develop. Yes, I also have a rough process of how we do that. So we sit together with a group of people from EXCITE to think about what would benefit researchers when they are looking for data. From that, we start conceptualizing and drafting some possibilities, a tool in this case. And then at some point we go back to the community and ask, hey, is this useful? For that, we generate the survey, and that's exactly what we are going to ask you to do today, is to basically provide us feedback if what we are thinking of useful tooling is actually helpful for you. Which I think brings me, yes, already to the next part of this webinar, which is on the survey. Now, instead of just giving you a long list of questions, what we've done here is we've tried to shape the tool that we want to develop into a scenario. So we've come up with basically a set of questions, or a positioning of a researcher where they have to or where they want to reuse and assess data, and basically created a cartoon scenario around it. This may sound a bit weird, but I'll show you what I mean. So essentially what it is a story that we ask you to see how well this matches with your needs. And after the story, we will post a link to the survey and we ask you to fill that out. So please bear with me, because it's maybe slightly atypical from how we normally do a survey. So what is portrayed here is that we have a researcher, his name is Isaac. He is working at Cambridge, UK. And he is working on pressure solution, so the dissolution of limestones in Mesozoic formations in a very specific location in the UK, for which he developed a certain hypothesis. And the hypothesis then explains the deformation mechanisms that were involved. Now, all of that hypothesization is based on his own personal data set collected in this very small location, and enabled to be able to turn this into a grander theory. Obviously, he has to get and involve data from multiple locations to see if this hypothesis holds. Now, he realizes that to get that good quality data, he needs to go elsewhere. He has a few locations in mind, which could provide the right setting for the research data that he needs. Now, ideally, he would want to travel there, but unfortunately, as happens often, is that his time is constrained, his funding is constrained, and he cannot go to all the places that he wants to. So then the second best option would be to actually look for data that is already available on that topic from those locations. So he calls some colleagues. Unfortunately, they don't have the data anymore because they lost it. It was on some hard drives that got erased. Some of it they archived online. And some of them, they remember that they actually put it on this EPOS multi-scale laboratories platform. So they've actually went through the process of publishing the data and is now available through EPOS. Now, what Isaac then does is he goes onto this data platform, which is shown on the left-hand side. He selects a number of keywords that sort of match what he is trying to find out. He gets shown a list of previews of data publications, and he's going to sift through that to try and judge which is important for him. So he selects a few, he clicks on them, a new screen pops up with more and in-depth information about that data set. Now he can browse through it, he can sort of preview images that are already in the data set, and it helps him in assessing the quality of the data, the provenance of it, and the overall quality with which the data was acquired. So from that, he selects a couple of data sets that he then downloads and uses in his research. Now, he combines this newly acquired data to see if his hypothesis holds, and voila, obviously it does. So he was on the right track. He publishes that data and he publishes the data eventually through the EPOS multi-scale laboratories. This is the scenario that we have drafted for you. And now our question to you is to go to the link that is shown here, which actually contains a survey on this scenario. So you don't have to go through all the through the cartoons anymore. The story is more or less there. And we ask you to, in the coming, it will probably take 5 minutes or so, to fill out the survey.
I hope everybody, like Alexandra, was able to hand in the surveys. Maybe Mike, can you see maybe how many surveys are submitted? Do you have any?
Yes, I can actually see that live indeed. And we have 6 responses
6.
in this session.
Okay. Okay,
So
good.
I assume for some it might take a little longer to fill out because I want to say more. So
Yeah.
please do, and then submit after the meeting. But any kind of response is helpful, because the more responses we get, and the more data we have, and the better decisions we can make, and accordingly shape the tool in a way that is also helpful for you, hopefully.
Yeah.
So please, this is not another survey for which you will not see anything back. We'll try to implement what you're saying and take it serious.
Yeah. Yeah, this is
Indeed.
a very direct way of influencing what it is that we develop, hopefully to your and everyone's benefit. Yeah. So yeah, so thanks everyone for who filled it out. Also, some of you may have already filled it out in the past. This is probably a very direct way in which you can provide us with feedback. Besides this, if you have any ideas or remarks or any or questions, you can always contact us either on the EXCITE party, so Geetje or myself, or on EPOS. So if you go on the EPOS MSL data portal, there should be a contact form there as well. Yeah. Maybe also to add to that, so when the link gets distributed, if you can send it on to your colleagues for which this may be interesting, that would help us as well. Because with our email list, we only reach a certain part of the population. So if you can extend this request for us or on our behalf, that would be great as well.
I would
Then we
really
can
like
truly,
to emphasize on that shortly, if I may, Richard.
Yeah,
So
sure.
just to stress the point that's already been made, this survey is about that we jointly make something that is really of use. Now, of course, for that we need community input, and we're collecting that through a survey. But the fate of many surveys is that they're sent by email, and then people will see that, hey, a survey, and then sort of glance over it because at that moment they might not have time. The best way to get community input is to really ask your colleagues in person. Mention this, mention what you've seen, say this could be useful for us, and ask your colleagues to really sit down and fill out the survey. It takes 10 minutes. And then we're developing a community that knows about this and can help us shape this further. Just to stress that point.
Great idea, Ronald.
Well stressed.